When it comes to power tools, guys, Milwaukee has made some of the most favorite tools in our shop for automotive use, be it their impact wrenches or the coveted M12 ratchets. If you don't have any M12 ratchets around and you do some automotive use, they're definitely a must-have. But the new right angle impact wrenches that are out might be a close second or maybe first. Let's check it out. So while this new right angle impact wrench looks like a ratchet, it definitely is not. And what I'd like to do is kind of go through what the downside is to the Milwaukee ratchet to give you an idea of what happens. Now, we're obviously in a situation where you wouldn't use the ratchet, but this happens on a bolt that is too tight for this unit, no matter where you are. And if you pull the trigger, it will either turn on and try to spin, or it'll push you around a little bit. Not much, sometimes a little bit, sometimes it won't. It depends on when the motor cuts out. Now, a typical impact wrench is pretty simple. This is just, it's on level 1. And no matter what I do here, it's not putting any pressure on my hand either way. So what's gonna happen with this right angle, even though it looks more like a ratchet, it shouldn't put any pressure on my hand. And we're on level 3 here. And you can see it removed the lug nut. So what I want to show you at this point is the auto tightening feature. If you were to use this, again, wrong application, completely wrong application. You shouldn't be using this on lug nuts. It's not going to be meant for it by any means. But what I'd like to show is the auto tightening. So it's loose, we're in auto tightening. We're going to spin this guy on. As soon as it starts to get tight before it impacts, it stops. You can push the trigger again to make it impact and get tighter. If you're coming off, it's going to give it full power, and then it will slow down so it doesn't spin the nut right off. It's just a little bit more control. Computer controlled stuff in this stuff, you guys know I'm not a fan of, but I wanted to show you that. Let's dive in, take a closer look at this and go over some specs. The new Milwaukee M12 FUEL right angle impact wrench comes in both 3/8 inch drive and 1/2 inch drive. 3/8 inch drive is available only with the friction ring, and that's model number 2564-20. The 1/2 inch model is available in friction ring, like with what you see here, or pin detent. The pin detent is 2565P-20. The friction ring is 2565-20. Most mechanics are going to want the friction ring as it's easy on and off, where the pin detent model is going to have you physically sticking a punch or something in that hole so you can remove the socket. Not many mechanics are going to want to go through that. These are rated to remove 220 foot-pounds. Now, as we found before, that's all going to depend on the socket, the weight of the socket, and different things that are on the end of it, also along with the fastener. It's rated to fasten up to 200 foot-pounds. So that's a significant amount, and that goes for both the 3/8 and 1/2 inch model. They both are pretty much identically the same in size, the only difference being the size of the anvil. They are 4-speed units, so level 1 here on this button is going to give you 0 to 1550 RPM and 0 to 1350 IPM. You do have a variable speed trigger that's pretty easy to use and adjust. Level 2 is going to give you up to 2300 RPM and 2700 IPM. Level 3 is 3000 RPM and 3600 IPM. It's got this guy moving pretty good. As we showed you the auto tightening and auto removal features already, which is going to give you full use of the removal but limit you on tightening, obviously. Pretty cool unit, very comfortable in your hand. The head is going to be larger, obviously, because it's an impact, but it's going to give you a lot of places that you can still fit this in for normal daily use, especially if you're underneath any modern day car or working on transmissions, anything like that. Tons of uses. Pretty cool little tool. Let's get under the car and show you where it fits in. Today's cars, and even some that were built in the 70s, just don't have a lot of room underneath them when you're working on something. If you want to get to transaxles, or if you even want to get to some of the drive shafts, you have to get this tool into different places, and it's usually the length here that comes back that stops us. So this tool physically will fit into many of these different places that you might not be able to get a normal impact wrench into, and these bolts down here are going to be way too tight for using any of the ratchets, especially if you're working on an alignment or something like that, which this is the perfect example. I want to come in close and show you how the LED light works on this tool. Obviously underneath the car you don't have any light, but this light does light up the socket pretty well, and if you look in here, the bolt and everything is lit up well, and it would allow us to do some decent work. While it would be nice to have more light, and I think any mechanic is going to have a light underneath the car, this definitely does fit and shine in the right places and turns off nicely. Power is going to be key with these because obviously that's why we're purchasing them, and as we found out in prior videos, the use of different sockets, lighter sockets and everything do impact the amount of power that you're able to exert. So this is just a shallow 21mm socket on the 3/8 drive. We're on level 3. We're going to fasten this loosened lug nut as tight as we can get it and see where we're going to go. I'm hoping to get more than 130 foot-pounds, but I don't want to break this stud since it's only rated for 100, but we're going to just give her hell. Definitely didn't make 130. We got at least 10 pounds on that. So this is going to be 130, just check it again. Can we remove it? Still on level 3. No. Again, shallow well socket. We go with the deep well socket on the 1/2-inch model. Level 3. And we're able to get it off with obviously quite a bit of impacting. That's a little surprising. I mean, these are rated for 220 foot-pounds of removal. So we made 130. Let's see what this one will tighten to. Still put some on this. So it's interesting. It's now at 130. Let's see what it takes to remove it again. Wrong tool. Quite a bit. So our last test on the Ford Edge was with a lug-centric lug nut. Acorn style is what people call them. This is a hub-centric lug nut, so it's basically more like a normal nut. 165 foot-pounds here. Let's just see if it will remove it. After a lot of impacting again, it was able to remove it. So I think we're getting up there in what this is going to physically be able to do, but The kicker of it is going to be how long you're willing to let it impact. Now, in certain circumstances and where you're working, no one's going to care if you got to let this impact for 15 seconds before it removes a nut. In other circumstances, you're going to wish it just had more power. But I'm pretty happy in having it remove this lug at 165 foot-pounds. I have a feeling though that we're going to significantly have to tighten this guy up. There's no way that it's going to generate that same amount of force in its tightening mode. Well, let's just give it a try and see. Yeah, we had to put quite a bit on it. Guys, overall, the testing is always interesting. You know, I never really get to that perfect and precise number. And I know a lot of you guys will post a video down below or say, hey, go check out this guy. He removed 220, 240, 250 foot-pounds. This isn't the right use of this tool to be doing that. In some cases, you're gonna want it to do that because it's the only tool you can fit into the spot. I personally don't see it. I did all my testing with the CP 2.0 that comes with it. I think that that's gonna be the main battery most people are gonna use. I will tell you that in what I've done, the half-inch model is already down 1 bar, doesn't surprise me. And the 3/8 inch model is down 1 bar. At one point in the video while we're using them, they both were down 2 bars. So this is going to be a fairly battery hungry, or it's going to want to use some battery without a doubt. Either way, super excited to finally have this in our tool arsenal because we had to pull out a pneumatic one to use it before. And something else to consider while we're talking about what it did and what it didn't do, the different sockets that you use will have a significant effect on the power output. So 90% chance says the heavier socket is going to be the one that's going to give you more power. So using a shallow well socket with this tool will probably give you less, as we've seen in the tightening. But at the same point, it's really what you're going to want to use with this tool because you're trying to get into tight spaces. Obviously, we've now found some different sockets out there that claim to give you 40% more impacting torque on any impact because they have this weight around the outside. Very interesting idea. I think we're going to dive in and look at this in the future when we can get some more scientific testing done in a way to show that this is what these sockets will actually do. But there are things out there like that. This is going to be a game changer for a lot of mechanics. Simple. They just don't want to use the ratchets in situations where they're overpowering. You have to loosen them first, then get the ratchet. And while I'm not going to bag on the ratchet because it saved me in a lot of very tight positions, you're just going to be able to pull out this tool, albeit it's got a little bit bigger head, but it doesn't matter, man. You got some power here. Get in the right place, get things done. I think that's huge. Can we add a bigger battery to it and get more power? We're gonna find that out when we have some actual jobs that are sitting here and we're gonna work through instead of trying to just test. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna bring you more on this stuff. As always, guys, please give us a like in this video. Leave us some comments. We're really interested in what you have to say about this tool and the others that are on the market, including this socket. Thanks for your time, guys. Have a great day.